Some people will look you dead in the eye and tell you that your dream is worthless. They'll say it at the dinner table. They'll say it in front of your family. They'll say it so many times that you start to wonder if maybe, just maybe, they're right. But what happens when the person who laughed the loudest ends up standing in the same room when everything changes? Stay right here. Because what you're about to hear is exactly that story. And I promise you, every single second of it is worth it. If you enjoy stories like this, do well to hit the subscribe button, turn on your notification bell so you don't miss any of our stories. Also like and comment where and what time you are watching from in the comment section. I read all comments. My name is Isaiah Carter. I'm 24 years old. I grew up loving art the way some kids love football or music. It wasn't a hobby for me. It was the only language I had that said everything I couldn't say out loud. Colors and shapes and textures told my story better than words ever could. But not everyone saw it that way. Especially not the man who moved into our house when I was 9 years old and decided he knew exactly what my future should look like. Picture this. A young man walks through his front door holding his college diploma. 4 years of hard work. 4 years of sacrifice. 4 years of believing that one day it would all mean something. He's tired but proud. His heart is full. And the first thing he hears when he steps inside is a slow, dry laugh from the living room couch. My stepdad Gerald Simmons looked at my art school diploma the way you look at a receipt for something you didn't order. He turned it over once, set it down on the coffee table. Then he leaned back in his recliner and said, 4 years for that. Not a question. A verdict. And in that moment, standing in my own home with my own achievement in my hands, I felt something shrink inside me. I told myself it wouldn't last. I told myself I was stronger than his opinion. But Gerald was only just getting started. Every single day there was a new comment, a new comparison, a new reminder that in Gerald's eyes, I was falling short. Brandon got a promotion. Brandon drives a company car now. Brandon doesn't spend his evenings playing with paint. Brandon was my stepbrother. Finance degree, steady salary, everything Gerald understood and respected. I had nothing against Brandon. He worked hard and earned what he had. But Gerald used him like a measuring stick and I was always the one coming up short. Mom sat through every one of those dinners with her hands folded in her lap and her eyes on her plate. She loved me. I knew she did. But she loved keeping the peace more. And so the comments kept coming one after another, dripping slow and steady like water wearing down rock. Art isn't a real career. You wasted 4 years. You'll be living in my basement forever with that worthless degree. Then came the ultimatum. Gerald called me into the living room one evening like I was being called into a principal's office. He sat in his recliner. Mom sat on the couch. The television was off, which meant this was serious. I've been patient, he said, but this is my house. Every man under this roof contributes. He gave me 90 days. Find a real job or move out. No negotiating. No extensions. I looked at my mother when he finished speaking. She looked at the carpet. That said everything. I walked back to my room that night and lay on my bed staring at the ceiling, listening to Gerald laugh at something on the television downstairs. Something shifted in me that night. Not anger exactly. Something colder and quieter than anger. A decision. I was not going to shrink myself to fit Gerald's idea of success. I was going to find a way. I just had to be patient. I took a job at a retail store to keep Gerald quiet and buy myself time. 8 hours a day folding clothes and helping customers find their size. It paid just enough to hand Gerald his rent money and keep a little left over. It was humbling. But I kept my head down and I kept showing up. And every single night after my shift, I came home and I painted. Door closed. Old towel pressed against the bottom of the door so the smell of acrylics wouldn't drift out. I painted until my eyes burned and my fingers cramped. The canvases piled up under my bed and behind my closet and stacked carefully against the wall. Gerald thought I'd given up. He'd walk past my room and hear nothing and think his message had finally landed. I let him believe that. Sometimes the most important work happens in silence. Sometimes the best response to someone who doubts you is simply to keep going where they cannot see you. Then one evening my old art teacher Ms. Rivera called. We had stayed in touch since high school. She was the first person who ever told me I had real talent, not the polite kind people used to be kind, but the serious kind that makes a teacher stop mid-lesson and stare at your work. She asked me to bring some of my new paintings to her studio. No pressure. Just to show her. I loaded 3 canvases into the back of my car without saying a word to Gerald and drove across town. When Ms. Rivera saw the work, she went completely quiet. She walked around each piece slowly with her arms folded and her head tilted. She stood in front of the last one for a long time without speaking. Then she turned to me and her eyes were wet. Isaiah, she said quietly, why are you folding clothes at a retail store? I didn't have a good answer for that, but she already had one for me. Ms. Rivera had a connection. His name was Darius Cole. He owned one of the most respected galleries in the city and had been showcasing serious emerging artists for over 15 years. She didn't throw his name around lightly. He's hosting an emerging artist showcase in about 6 weeks, she told me. I want to show him your portfolio. My heart started hammering immediately. You think he'd actually be interested? She picked up one of my canvases and held it toward the light from the window. I think he'd be a fool not to be. I drove home that night with my hands tight on the steering wheel, trying hard not to let myself hope too much. I had been disappointed before. I knew exactly what it felt like to reach for something and grab nothing but air. But something about that evening felt different. Something felt like the very beginning of something I couldn't fully see yet. I met Darius Cole at his gallery on a Thursday afternoon. He was tall and well-dressed and had eyes that felt like they were looking past the surface of everything. He went through my portfolio without saying a word. I stood with my hands in my pockets and tried to look calm while my heart was doing everything it could to escape through my chest. He looked at each piece carefully. He went back to 2 of them twice. Then he set the portfolio down and looked up. Your work has commercial appeal, he said. But more importantly, it has emotional depth. That combination is rare. He paused for a moment. Let me think on it. I thanked him and walked out of that gallery into the afternoon sun feeling both terrified and more alive than I had in months. I told nobody. Not Ms. Rivera. Not my mother. Definitely not Gerald. This flame was mine and I was not letting anyone near enough to blow it out. 2 weeks later, Darius called. I want to feature your work in the showcase, he said. 5 pieces. The event is in 3 weeks. My legs nearly gave out. I sat down slowly on the floor of my bedroom and pressed my back against the wall and just breathed. 5 pieces in 3 weeks. While working full retail shifts every day. While hiding everything from Gerald. While paying rent. While pretending that absolutely nothing was happening in my life. That same evening at dinner, Gerald spent 20 straight minutes talking about Brandon's latest promotion. He glanced at me between sentences with that specific look he had, half pity, half something sharper. I ate my food. I said nothing. But in my head I was already painting. Every single brush stroke of everything that was coming was already alive inside me. I just needed 3 weeks to get it out. Those 3 weeks were the hardest I had ever lived. I woke at 5 in the morning to paint before my shift. I came home at 9 at night and painted until 2 in the morning. I hid finished canvases in the trunk of my car. I ran on black coffee and pure stubborn will. One evening Gerald came into the hallway and I had a wet canvas propped against the wall just outside my bedroom door. I heard his footsteps coming from the kitchen and grabbed it in 2 seconds flat, shoved it behind the dresser, and was sitting at my desk with a book open by the time he knocked. He pushed the door open and looked around slowly, narrowed his eyes. Smells like paint in here. I was touching up some old furniture, I said without looking up. He stood there another moment. Then he grunted and walked away. I let out a breath so slow and controlled it barely made a sound. Ms. Rivera helped me carry the 5 finished paintings to the gallery 2 days before the opening. When Darius saw all of them together, properly hung and lit in the gallery space, he nodded slowly and said, "This is the work of someone with a serious future." I stood in that clean white room with my paintings on the walls and felt something I had not felt in a very long time. Worthy. The opening was in 2 days, and I had one thing left to do. Something I had been turning over in my mind for weeks. Something I knew carried risk. That evening I went home and found Gerald in the living room. I kept my voice completely casual. "There's an art event Friday night," I said. "Thought you and Mom might want to come." Gerald looked at me over his reading glasses. "An art event? Yeah. Should be interesting." He shrugged and turned back to the television. "Nothing else going on. Fine." Friday night Gerald wore his usual sports shirt and slacks. Mom wore her blue cardigan. They had absolutely no idea. I drove separately and arrived early to make sure everything was exactly right. The gallery was already filling up when their car pulled into the lot. Not a student showcase. Not a small community gathering. A full professional event with suited collectors, serious art critics with notepads, photographers moving through the crowd, and a jazz quartet playing softly in the corner. I stood near the back and watched Gerald walk through the entrance and stop completely. He looked around slowly. His expression shifted in a way I had never seen before. Something uncertain moved across his face. He picked up the program from the welcome table and started reading it. I watched him find my name. His head came up. His eyes moved across the walls. And I watched the moment it hit him. Every painting. Every piece people were gathered around. Every piece being discussed and photographed. All of it was mine. I walked toward them across the room. My mother saw me first. Her hand flew to her mouth and her eyes filled immediately. Gerald turned around slowly. He opened his mouth and closed it again. For the first time in 15 years he had nothing to say. "Isaiah," Mom whispered. "This is all you?" "This is all me," I said. A well-dressed woman standing nearby turned with a warm smile. "You're the artist? Your work is truly extraordinary. That centerpiece especially." She gestured toward the largest painting across the room. Deep blues and burnt oranges. A single figure reaching upward. I had painted it at 2 in the morning after one of Gerald's worst evenings. Every drop of pain from that night was locked inside that canvas. That piece has been drawing people in all evening, the woman added. You're not the only one who has noticed it. Gerald said nothing. He was reading the small placard on the wall next to the painting nearest to him. Her name was Vanessa Monroe. Darius told me later that she was one of the most respected private collectors in the country. She had pieces in collections across 3 continents and had been buying serious art for decades. She came straight to me with the directness of someone who knew exactly what she wanted. That centerpiece, she said, nodding toward the large painting across the room, the figure reaching upward. I want it. My mouth went dry. Thank you. I appreciate $250,000. The room seemed to tilt. Someone nearby made a sharp sound. I looked at Darius, who gave me the smallest single nod. Yes, I said. My voice came out steady. To this day I am not sure how. That sounds right. Vanessa Monroe shook my hand firmly and smiled. And from somewhere just behind my left shoulder I heard the sound of a champagne glass trembling against someone's palm. I turned around. Gerald's face was the color of old paper. Darius announced the sale from the front of the room. The gallery erupted in applause. Photographers moved forward. People reached to shake my hand. Ms. Rivera was crying openly with her hand pressed against her heart. My mother had both hands wrapped around my arm and was squeezing hard enough that I could feel every finger. I looked at her face and saw something there that I had been waiting years to find. Pure, uncomplicated, total pride. And then I looked at Gerald. He was standing slightly apart from everyone else, a polite smile fixed on his face that stopped well short of reaching his eyes. After a few minutes he made his way through the crowd toward me. He put his hand on my shoulder in the way people do when they want to appear connected to something they had no hand in building. I always knew you had it in you, he said loudly enough for the people nearby to hear clearly. Always supported this. That is what family does. 3 days later a local news crew came to the gallery for a feature story. The reporter was warm and professional. We sat on stools in front of my centerpiece and she asked about the painting, about art school, about the showcase. Then she leaned forward slightly. Who believed in you during this journey? Who was your biggest support? I looked at the camera for a moment. I thought about Ms. Rivera sitting across from me saying, "Why are you folding clothes?" I thought about Darius nodding across the gallery floor. I thought about my mother's hands on my arm. And I thought about Gerald's voice on all those ordinary evenings, still playing with crayons in the basement. My art teacher Ms. Rivera believed in me completely from the beginning, I said. She never wavered. The reporter smiled. And at home? Family support. I held steady. My stepdad told me my degree was worthless, that art was not a real career, that I would fail. Complete silence. That was hard to carry. But honestly, it drove me forward. Gerald saw that interview the same evening it aired. My phone rang at 9:15. I let it ring. It rang again at 9:30. I let that one go too. The next morning I was moving the last of my things into my new loft studio. With the first installment from the sale I had put down on a beautiful open-plan space with high ceilings and large north-facing windows and walls I could cover entirely in work. Everything I had imagined late at night in that small bedroom with the towel under the door. I was carrying the final box to my car when Gerald came outside. He stood on the front step with his arms crossed. He looked smaller somehow, like something had quietly left him. "You're leaving?" he said. Not a question. "Yes." "You could have said something sooner." "I'm telling you now." He came down 2 steps and stopped. "I want you to know something. What I said back then, that was tough love. I was trying to push you." I set my box down on the trunk of the car and turned to face him. I looked at this man who had spent 15 years telling me I was not enough, who had stood at a gallery and told strangers he had always believed in me. "Gerald," I said quietly, "there is a difference between tough love and cruelty. You were not building me up. You were tearing me down. Every single dinner. Every single comparison to Brandon. Every single comment about worthless degrees and crayon drawings." He opened his mouth. I kept going. "You do not get to stand at that gallery and tell people you supported me. You do not get to call it motivation now that it worked out. I know what those years felt like from the inside." I picked my box back up. "I forgive you. But I need you to be honest with yourself about what actually happened." I put the box in the car, got in, and drove toward the rest of my life. Darius signed me to the gallery on a permanent basis 2 months after the showcase. A tech company commissioned 4 large-scale pieces for their new headquarters lobby. A hotel chain wanted original work for their executive suites. A non-profit wanted a full mural for their community center. I went from folding clothes under fluorescent lights to working in a sun-filled studio creating things that would hang in buildings where thousands of people would walk past them every single day. I thought about Gerald's words often during those months. Not with anger anymore. With something quieter. The way you think about a storm after it has passed. It did its damage. And then the sky cleared. And everything the storm tore down turned out to be something I needed to rebuild from scratch anyway. Into something stronger. Something that was completely and entirely mine. About 6 months after I moved out, Mom came to the studio alone. She stood in the middle of the space and turned slowly, looking at all the work covering the walls. She walked up to each piece carefully and looked at it the way she used to look at things she loved but did not always have the words for. Finally she turned to me and her eyes were red and her voice broke before she even finished my name. "I'm sorry, Isaiah. I heard everything he said to you. Every single time. And I stayed silent because I was afraid. Afraid of arguments. Afraid of what would happen if I pushed back." She pressed her hand to her chest. "I chose keeping the peace over protecting you. And you deserved so much better than that from me." I looked at my mother. At her tired, honest face. At the woman who had loved me quietly and imperfectly through all of it. "I know you love me, Mom," I said. That was never the question. 2 years passed. My work was featured in 2 national art magazines. One piece was selected for a traveling exhibition across 5 cities. I started turning down commissions because there were more than I could take on at once. I hired an assistant. I began teaching free Saturday morning art classes for kids from low-income neighborhoods. I wanted to be what Ms. Rivera had been for me. The person who looked at a young artist and said, "Your work matters." I thought about that often while watching those kids paint. How much one person's belief can change the entire direction of someone's life. How much damage one person's cruelty can do. And how sometimes, if you are stubborn enough and hungry enough, you survive the cruelty and find the belief anyway. That is the thing Gerald never understood. He thought he was the only voice I could hear. He did not know about the voice inside me that was always louder. Then one afternoon my phone buzzed with a message from Gerald. The first one since I had driven away from that house. Short and plain. "Isaiah. Hope you are well. My business has hit some difficulties. Wondering if we could talk." I sat with the phone in my hand for a long time. I looked around my studio at the light coming through the big windows and the paintings covering every wall and the brushes soaking in jars along the counter. I thought about the 90-day ultimatum. I thought about every dinner table comment. I thought about him telling strangers at the gallery that he had always believed in me. I put the phone face down on my desk and went back to the canvas I was working on. I finished it that evening. It was one of the best things I had ever painted. Sometimes the memories that hurt the most make the most honest work. I called him back 3 days later. Not because he had earned it, but because I was no longer carrying anything heavy enough to need to punish him with silence. "Gerald," I said, "I hope things improve for you. I genuinely mean that." He started explaining his situation. A deal that collapsed. Debt he had not seen coming. He had heard things were going well for me. He was wondering if perhaps a short-term loan might be possible between family. I listened to everything without interrupting. Then I said, "I can't help you financially, but I'll give you something that costs me nothing." Pause. The way you speak to people shapes who they become. You can either be part of someone's rise or part of their battle. You were part of my battle, Gerald. I won it anyway. But that cost us both something we will never get back. I heard him breathing on the other end. "Take care of yourself," I said, and I hung up gently and without anger. That Saturday I taught my morning art class like I did every week. There was a 10-year-old girl named Amara who had been working on the same painting for 2 weeks. She brought it to me at the end of class with her eyes full of nervous hope. It was bold and alive and completely honest in the way only a child's work can be. "Is it good?" she asked quietly. I looked at that painting. I looked at her face. And I said the words that Ms. Rivera said to me in a small studio on the other side of the city what felt like a lifetime ago. "Amara, this is the kind of work that makes people stop talking." She broke into the widest smile I had ever seen. And in that moment I understood completely what all of it had been for. Not the $250,000. Not the gallery walls or the magazine features or the moment Gerald's face went pale. It was for this. For being the person who sees something real in someone who needs to be seen. Gerald called my art degree worthless. My art degree gave me the tools to change a young girl's entire belief in herself on a Saturday morning. I'll let you decide which one of us was right.